Hey YouTube, this is Ace Pinkter. I'm looking at a website here called moneychords.com where it has plenty of lessons here about different chord progressions, different musical styles that have been used throughout the history of music. There are certain progressions that, for example, flamenco uses that blues does not, or that rock would not. Certain progressions you would hear in jazz that you would never hear in classical music, and so on. Now, if you're not familiar with music theory or haven't taken any real courses on the subject, this notation might confuse you. There's no such thing as an I chord or a V chord, so how do you read this? To read notations for chord progressions, you need to know your intervals, and I'm going to talk about an easy system here for keeping track of your intervals. Alright, we're going to work in the key of C because it's easy. Now this is the major scale, okay? We're going to build from that. This is the major triad. Now, if you haven't enabled your helpers, I should have said this before, but if you haven't enabled your helpers, do so now. You can access them by clicking on this little piano menu down here and just enable everything. Alright, now the helpers have two features that will be very useful right now. As soon as I put down some notes, right, as soon as I drop this chord, it changes the layout, and you'll see that some notes have become darkened and others have become, well, they haven't become. Now the darkened notes are not a part of the scale that we're working in. Alright, because I placed a major chord on C, it knows we were working in C major. And I can see right here underneath Tools, it tells me exactly what key I'm working in. Pretty handy. Alright, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to build from the major scale a series of triads, which would look like this. The triad chord simply being a chord using the first, third, and fifth note within a scale, and these are referred to as intervals. This is the first interval, third, and fifth interval. The second and fourth are not a part of this chord, but they will be a part of the next chord. What we're going to do is make an ascending series of triads simply by going up one interval each chord. Alright, now this isn't too difficult. You can see that even though we're working in the major scale, some of these notes or some of these chords are going to be minor chords. That's a diminished chord. Whoops, right there. Alright, so there, we've gone from C to C using the major scale to build us some chords. Now, if I want to find out what any of these chords are, I can make a selection, and it will tell me up underneath Tools that this is an F major. If I select this one, it tells me, whoops, it will tell me that it is not. It is something else entirely, and I guess I have to do it like that. Strange. Alright, so it's pretty good at guessing actually what chord you're working in. This is a G major, and so on. The only thing it can't guess is the diminished chords. It will think that they're minors, so no worries. Just keep that in mind. Right, so to talk about chord progressions, we see that the numbering system that they use is Roman numerals, and it only goes up to 7, and these correspond directly to our intervals. Alright, what that means is by the time we hit the 8th interval, it loops back to C. So the reason you learn these intervals as opposed to simply learning the chords is that once you know these chords, or rather once you know the chord progression and the intervals between each chord, it's very easy to transpose, and you can just take this system, this pattern, and move it up to D, move it up to E, F. You can play in B sharp, whatever. I don't think there is a B sharp. Yeah, there's. Anyway, the blues progression is just the one I wanted to start off with as an example. It's very simple, and what we're going to do here is just create a quick blues pattern. Now blues goes 1, 4, 1, 5, 4. Alright, that's what the Roman numeral system here indicates. Blues 1, 4, 1, 5, 4. So what I'm going to do is only use the 1, the 4, and the 5 chords. Alright, so I'm just going to stretch this out. I guess I need to move this over a bit. You go over here. And that should do it. And that should sound like some pretty cheesy blues. Not really. Right. Now, of course, it needs a lot of work, but this is the basic idea of how to use intervals to structure your music. Now, some of the chord progressions that you'll encounter will have Roman numerals in lowercase, as is the case here, the small sixth and the small second. This indicates that they are minor, and they might take a bit of work to get them to come out right. Keep in mind that your chord progression in the key of C, or whatever key you choose, will have occasional minor chords within it. The second chord in the key of C is actually a D minor. Alright, so just keep that in mind when you're trying to figure out your chord progressions, that you may not have to break your key in order to get a minor chord to work. Alright, this is kind of a strange lesson. I didn't have a lot of examples. I just wanted to cover intervals for the learners out there who haven't encountered that before. That's it. A Sphincter signing out.